Sexual and gender-based violence assumes many forms. Most of the time when people hear about it, because it's the most prevalent and most visible, they think domestic violence in terms of battering, violence between spouses, or children being beaten up, etc. But then we do have other forms of violence. We have sexual violence, we have rape, we have defilement, for those under the age of 18. We also have psychological or emotional violence or abuse. Some people have never been beaten. They've never experienced physical violence, but they have been subjected to mental or emotional or psychological abuse, either through intimidation, through insults, cold wars, isolation, casting them in bad light, either in their workplace or in their home, things that are likely to give them stress, right? And those happen in homes, but also in schools, in the workplaces, etc. Now, one of the reasons why some of these forms of violence are more quote-unquote prominent than others is also because of the related issues. It's only now as a country we've started talking about mental health. There's been a lot of stigma around it. Again, we've been very dismissive of those conditions. So you find that if someone is suffering psychological or emotional violence, they tend to pile it up and not seek help. Unlike physical violence, where that is more evident because of the physical harm that could have incurred, there is an injury, etc., maybe someone else heard about it, and people often tend to talk about it a lot more than this other form of violence, because again, placing a finger on it can sometimes be difficult.
When you're going through a SGBV violence, number one, you lose self-esteem, self-strength, self-confidence, and along the way, you find out that you don't even know who you are. I was almost killed by my ex. Yes, he stabbed me with a knife. He tried to kill me 4 times. He buried me alive. When I refused to have sex with him because of what I was going through, he used to beat me and my kids. I have 2 boys. I was also being abused by my mother-in-law as well. It wasn't easy for me to just live a normal life because I was living a life which was never mine in the first place. So I was living in among people who never wanted me to be with them.
The issue of violence against women has been a perpetual situation in this country. It has been escalating. Actually, violence against women and girls, it's not even a story anymore, where when women are violated, when women are abused, when women are, when extreme violence is meted out against women, there is no outrage. But I believe that it is related to the low status that women have, and the way the communication, because you see, like now, for instance, when we talk about the 2/3 gender principle, you find that the president, the legislature, the executive have refused to implement it. It's like saying women don't count and women don't matter. And so it's also translated within the social and intimate spheres where women are also treated badly. Now, COVID came with some very, very unique circumstances. People were confined in very closed spaces, and I don't think that we appreciate the situation of a majority of Kenyans, the situations that they live in. You've seen the recent report that came out from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Over 50% of Kenyans are living below poverty. Over 50%, that's over half of our population living below poverty. That means that even their living conditions, because this is looking at the poverty level, but what about their living situations? We know that many of the people, like when we look particularly in urban areas like Nairobi, very many people living in slums or slum-like conditions, in houses that are confined, very small. So you're in this confined space. Your work, your income has been affected because people were not working. Majority of people rely on their day-to-day work to just have a meal on the table. You take for granted that you have your store. You can run to the store and stock up, but many people don't have those privileges, those advantages. And so here we are. People have been confined in that space. You have needs. The children are not in school. They have needs. People need to eat. You don't know how you're going to feed the children and everything. And one of the challenges that we've had as a country is we've not learned how to process our trauma. We've not been conditioned. We've always had this attitude of accept and move on, sweeping things under the carpet, using alternative means like to deal with serious issues. There's built in, so we are a very traumatized country. So now people don't know how to express their frustrations except through violence, right? And so we saw an increase in violence. In fact, it was being called the shadow pandemic because suddenly there were sexual violations against children, defilement, violent acts, domestic violence, increase in domestic violence, And this is because of that situation, but also because that we've not learned how to deal with our trauma.